Hi, today I'm going to be talking about liquid blush because so many people have asked me about so many questions about blush. I can't do it all in one go, about cream blush, about different colours, different textures, powder blush, how to use it, liquid blushes, stains. So I thought I'd probably do a series of films, and I'll start with the liquids today. So here we go. Now, liquid blush, I think, first came to everyone's attention when Benefit launched Benetint quite a few years ago, and this was sort of the first stain really for the cheeks, and everyone was very excited, and it's still a lovely product today. There are lots of other sort of quite similar ones now as well. There's Jemma do a lovely one, which is a lip and cheek stain. It's very much a liquid stain. This one's actually quite a bit sheerer. I think these are really good for more oily skins because sometimes, especially with the Benetint, you find that you don't get enough time to sort of really, it can dry. If you've got very dry cheeks or dehydrated cheeks, you find that it sort of sinks in, and then you're blending away and you end up with a sort of, you can see the edge, and that's really the secret. You don't want to be able to see the edge. Other ones that I like are, and I've used this one actually in another video in the summer Rose bridal tutorial, which is the Sandler Watercolour. And again, it's very liquidy, it's very water based, but it has more pigment in it, so you do get more colour. You needed to do a little bit more blending because it's not as sheer. Again, it dries, so you only have a certain amount of time, and it is waterproof and it really lasts. So that's, again, I think a lovely one for oily skins, especially in hot climates. It's great. Another one that I like is, there are a whole group of these, but there's the Sheer Liquid Blush by Terry, which I used in my everyday makeup tutorial. And this is almost like a cross between a highlighter and a blusher. And you see lots of these sort of products. They're mainly blushes, but they have a lot of shimmer in them. And these are just lovely if you want to look very alive, so have a very, very dewy look. Not brilliant, actually, if you've got lots of spots on your cheeks or you're very, very oily, because it gives a very, very dewy appearance, which can be a little bit too shiny if you're already naturally shiny. But lovely if you've got combination skin or a dry skin, and you do get quite a bit of time to blend in the edges with that one. One that I really like is by Becca, and it's called Beach Tint. And this is nice because it's sort of a liquidy gel, but it has a sort of slightly creamy feel to it as well. And because it has, it's got some silicone in there, you get a little bit more time to blend. So unlike the tint, you can really blend those edges in. It's waterproof and it hasn't any oil in it, so it's still good for oily skin. But I think you can sort of get away with this one more for drier skins, dehydrated skins. It doesn't have any shimmer in it, but it's actually this colour does have a little bit of shimmer in it, I think. Let me have a look. I do a few different shades. It has a tiny bit of shimmer in it, but not as much as the By Terry one. And then there are ones which are liquid but have incredible amounts of pigment in. This is a very bright version of the Makeup Forever High Def blush. And these are good for all skin types. They have that slightly dewy, stainy feel, but at the same time you get a lot of slip in and the very silicone base, so you can you really, really need to blend those edges though. Although the particles are very fine, there's a lot of pigment, a lot of colour in there. But if they're applied well, these look incredible. You just need to use a little bit of a foundation brush. I'm going to start by using the Becca one. And this is a very, very peachy colour that I'm using. In terms of the colour that you choose with these stains and these liquid blushes, it's really depending on the kind of look you're going for. If you just want it to look very, very, very natural, which is basically what you should be going for, because they're meant to look natural. It's meant to look like the blush is sort of emulating from within your skin. You've just got a healthy, natural glow, a little bit like you've been for a walk, and you're just looking slightly glowy and slightly flushed. So the warmer shades on somebody with a warm tone, somebody with a lot of yellow in their skin or more of an olive skin tone, that's going to look very, very natural because it's almost going to blend in with your natural undertone. So it's going to look super natural. But having said that, whenever I've worked with Helena Christensen, who has got very warm olive skin, you know, with sort of yellowy undertones, I often use things like that on her, sort of more of the sort of bright pinks with a slightly bluey, because that way it really pops. So it depends how much colour you want, but I'd say in general, the more natural, it will look more natural if you're following your natural skin's undertones. It will pop more if you're going against them, if that makes sense. So I'm going to start with the Becca one. This is going to look really natural on me because now that I've got foundation on, I'm looking quite sort of creamy. I don't have very much red in my skin. So this is a slightly tawny peachy shade, and I'm imagining it's going to look very, very natural. Now, because these are all liquids, you need to put them on like for like. So either over moisturiser, if you don't wear foundation, or on top of tinted moisturiser, or on top of foundation, which I put some Chanel Pro Lumiere on. Just put a thin layer on. So don't ever try and use these after powder, because it's not going to work. You need a lot of natural slip on the skin to get them to sort of blend in, especially the tinted ones, I find. So if it's a product you've never used before, try it on the back of your hand first, just to gauge how much pigment it's got. This is a very sheer one, so I can just put a dot on my finger and go straight onto the cheek. And as soon as it hits the skin, start blending. Start on the apple of the cheeks. That's the fattest bit when you smile. If you just look underneath, you've got that really sort of fat pad. And just start in the centre there, and just very gently, either with your middle finger or your ring finger, very feathery strokes, just start blending out from there. Better to start with a small amount and build up, because it's easier to do that than put too much on and then have to use a foundation brush to start trying to blend the edges in. So I'm just going to add a little bit more into the centre, another layer. And the trick is really that you don't want to have any of those harsh edges. He wants to be really believable. It's going to be looking like blusher, not contour. So never try and contour with these products, because that's really not what they're about. They're very much about giving your skin a healthy flush and looking, you know, completely natural. If you feel like you haven't blended it, or you've put too much on, just take your foundation brush or any kind of even concealer brush, and you can always just, using a tiny bit, whatever's left on the brush, you can just sort of go around the edges, just making sure it's really fully blended in. And then just keep adding until you feel like you've got enough. Put a tiny bit more just in the centre there. Often these tints, a lot of them are really good on lips as well, so quite nice as well to have that similar colour that you're wearing on your cheek, on your lips. So that's kind of peaches and cream on me, that one. Now, if you do have spots or a couple of breakouts on your cheek area, put the blusher on first, blend all the edges, so finish it off, and then using a very tiny brush, you can actually just go back in and just dot a little bit of concealer onto the marks. Just keep it right on the marks and not on the surrounding skin if possible, so you keep that blushed vibe. You can do a little bit of concealing. If you have a lot of spots on the cheek, I'd say this type of product probably isn't the best for you. You'd be better off with a powder or a cream that has a little bit of coverage in it. But if you've got one or two, you can still get the effect of a liquid and that very natural look, and you can cheat by just covering your spot. So that's the Becca Beach Tint, and it's sort of very peachy, more of a sort of natural peaches and cream type look. On this cheek, I'm going to do more of a rosy look. To be honest, it's more the look that I normally like, because I kind of like blusher to pop a bit more. I like that really vibrant cheek. So the blusher police are always after me. Between the two, I'm not sure to use the Benetint or the MakeUp Forever, because both of them are a little bit trickier to apply. I think I'll use the MakeUp Forever. So I'm going to put this one on the back of my hand to start with, because when I say you hardly need any, even that is probably going to be too much. So you can see I've got a tiny little speck on there, and I am going to use a brush to apply this. I'm going to use my foundation brush, and I'm just going to start to work it into the brush. You can see how bright it is there. So again, I'm just starting to blend it onto my cheek. You can see straight away got way more colour. So it just takes a bit of working in, but it's starting to just make sure all those edges are really well blended. Hardly, as I say, need sort of any at all. Again, if you think you've made a mistake, you can always use a foundation brush and just blend in any edges so that again you don't see kind of where it starts or where it ends. And I think the majority of the colour sort of needs to be under the centre of your eyes, so you have that sort of intensity here. Not too much, because you don't want to look like Aunt Sally with like perfect circles, but you want sort of the colour to be here, and then it kind of moves away towards the hairline, down slightly, but that there's no hard edges, and that it sort of is disappearing really away. If you want to add a bit more colour, again, just start to add a little bit more into the centre. So as you can see, they both sort of look very natural, but obviously one's popping a lot more. The one that has more of a base colour that's like mine, the more sort of slightly yellowy one, is very much more subtle, and the very blue based one, which is against my skin tone, is popping out a lot. I mean, they're just different looks. I think they both sort of feel quite natural and sort of healthy, but the look is very different. So most of these liquids do set, you feel that they sort of dry in a way, or they feel like they're not going to come off. You can powder over them if you want to. I don't really think you should. I think it's quite nice to have the colour and the texture sort of left there, but if you've got oily skin, you can very much kind of powder the rest of your skin and sort of around them. And if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of highlighter onto the top of your cheekbone, or you could even go over the top with a powder blush. I often do that, one that has a bit of shimmer in, so you get more of a three-dimensional look. But the good thing about liquid stains and liquid blushes is that if they're well applied, so apply really thin layers. Start with a small amount, build up. If you need to put, I mean, I've got 3 layers on there, but they're very thin layers. It's really going to stay on. That's not going to come off. So great if you're even going on holiday or you're going to be in a hot country. And they do look really natural. Just make sure, again, you don't really see the lines around the edge where they sort of join the skin. They need to look like they're in synergy with the skin. But they're really nice for everyday makeup. Most of them you can apply with your fingers. Some you need a brush for. Just work them, and I think they do give a really kind of natural, healthy look to the skin. I hope that was helpful.